Good morning on this Monday, April the 5th, 2021. Let it be known, we have a really good show for you in store again. Kiara Jones, the CEO of Free Moneymeister, will join us in a few moments to discuss financial literacy related to student loan debt and financing college through free money. We will talk with Kiara Jones of Free Moneymeister in just a moment. But first, let's bring on our tireless President and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavis. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning, Stacy. On behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the Black Press of America, we salute you. We thank you. This is a great way to start off the week. We're going to deal with the headlines, but I'm so glad that Kiara Jones is going to be with us to talk about financial literacy, particularly those that impact the college students, those who are getting ready to go to college, those who have loan debt. Financing your education is very, very important. So this is a great discussion this morning, but let's talk about the headlines, Stacey.
Absolutely. Dr. Chavis, rap star DMX is hospitalized and remains on life support at a hospital in White Plains, New York this morning. His longtime attorney, Mary Richmond, said that the rapper suffered a heart attack at around 11 p.m. Friday in his home in White Plains. He was taken via ambulance to a local hospital where he remains there now. His updated condition, his prognosis looks a little better than it did over the weekend, we're happy to say, and we continue to hope that DMX, whose real name is Earl Simmons, continues to improve. A beautiful scene outside the hospital late last night. The Rough Riders bikers joined a collective prayer group on their way to the hospital. They are camped outside the hospital. There's a large group of motorcyclists wearing the Rough Rider logo. They came out to show support. They were blasting DMX's music. They were popping wheelies in front of the hospital. They are there for DMX. Y'all know DMX. Party Up, Get At Me Dog. His first 5 albums debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. He's 50 years old, and certainly the other aspects, on a personal note for us at the NMPA and the Black Press, he's really good friends of Dr. Chavis. Dr. Chavis, I know that DMX is in your thoughts constantly.
Absolutely. DMX is in our prayers constantly, daily. We pray for his family. And, he's a strong brother. DMX and I starred in the movie Belly together. And whenever I go around the country, people, particularly millennials and Generation Z, they know me from the movie Belly, starring DMX. And we became lifelong friends. It was over that movie. That movie came out in 1998. And years later, people still refer to it as a hip hop classic. But he's a very talented, gifted young man. I know 50 sounds to some people to be old, but he's still young. And we pray that he'll be able to recover from this heart attack. It was really tragic over the weekend. People were giving up on him, but he's still alive. And I would say this to the whole world, that God answers prayers. Don't stop praying.
Yeah, DMX, we are certainly going to keep our thoughts with him, and we'll keep an eye on any progress we can report to the viewers of the Black Press. This morning starts another week of testimony in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who continues to sit and listen to testimony of him being careless, reckless, and remorseless. Chauvin he kneeled, as we know, on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. We will continue to follow the coverage from our two newspapers in Minneapolis, the Insight News and the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder. One of the parts of the damaging testimony, I should say, came from police officers themselves. Chauvin's sergeant said that there was no reason for Chauvin's actions whatsoever. He condemned Chauvin's actions. And Ben Crump, the civil rights attorney representing the Floyd family, says it says something when you have the highest ranking police officials in the Minneapolis Police Department saying this is a bridge too far. You knew you weren't supposed to keep a human from being a human being face down like that, where they could not breathe, and yet you did it, and you did it even after he had become unconscious. And that statement is backed by testimony from EMS workers who said when they arrived there, they did not find a pulse, yet Chauvin was still kneeling on George Floyd. We will, like I said, we will continue to follow this as it happens, as this trial continues to unfold. The spokesman recorded and Insight News on the front lines in Minneapolis, Dr. Chavis.
Absolutely. We can't breathe. The George Floyd family can't breathe. America can't breathe until this trial is held, until the police officer who murdered and the other police officers who were in complicity also need to be dealt justice. But Chauvin is the major one right now. And, George Floyd is not on trial. Chauvin is on trial. The criminal justice system in America is on trial. We're very proud of Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, the African-American Attorney General of Minnesota, who really put the prosecution together. It's very detailed. It's a tight case. And so when people say, well, it's hard to convict a police officer, well, it's how the case is put together on them. Most prosecutors are reluctant to prosecute police officers. But now we see a difference when African-Americans become the chief law enforcement officer of the state. So all eyes of the world are on Minneapolis. We thank our two NMPA newspaper publishers in Minneapolis of the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder and the Insight News for providing us daily detail, which we will post on blackpressusa.com daily.
Yeah, absolutely. The trial is expected to last at least a couple more weeks after this week. So obviously, we will continue to follow that. It is National Financial Literacy Month. And this morning, we're going to talk to an expert. Joining us now, the CEO of Free Moneymeister, Kiara Jones. Good morning, Kiara Jones.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Fantastic. It's great to have you here. Is that check behind you? Is that for Dr. Chavis and I?
It's already been used.
Oh, well.
Or else I would give it to you guys. It's already been used.
Kiara, first of all, tell us a little bit about Free Moneymeister.
Well, at Free Moneymeister, we are all experts who have funded our own educations through free money, scholarships, grants, fellowships, and student loan paydowns. And we are now providing that knowledge to students through speaking engagements, workshops, programs, and scholarship coaching. We're actually taking our scholarship coaching digital so that we can reach more students nationally.
Wow. And you're the CEO. What are some of the requests, perhaps a little unusual, in the sense that you might shake your head and say, wow, you know what, this shows you how desperate financial literacy is needed?
Yes. So I am actually on a lot of different panels and I speak with my peers, and sometimes I hear my peers say, well, if you haven't applied for scholarships by your senior year, it is too late. And I cringe when I hear that, because it's not too late. Don't tell students that, because you can still get scholarships in college as well. Matter of fact, I did not receive all of these scholarships, grants, fellowships, student loan paydowns until I was in undergrad, and even a few of them in graduate school.
Yeah, and Kiara, we know too, certainly in the African-American community, and certainly schools that have mostly Black students and brown students, they don't talk a whole lot about financial literacy. What's the message you want to send to those educators or school systems that are overlooking this vital subject?
Well, you're putting our children in a place where we are already in a wealth disparity gap, right? Which means that Black people, people of color, already are projected to make less in their lifetime than people who are not of color, right? And it's unfortunate because the average student loan debt is about $35,000 per student. So what is happening if you don't let them know about this gap, and then they start off with $35,000 in debt anyway, you're continuing to further the gap. And so students need to know this information as early as possible and as soon as possible so they can seek free money.
Absolutely. Dr. Chavis, I'm going to throw it to you.
Absolutely. Kiara, where's your company based? Where are you based?
I'm based out of Bowie, Maryland, Washington, D.C.
So tell us something about your journey. Where did you go to undergraduate?
I went to Notre Dame of Maryland. It's in Baltimore, Maryland, all girls school on a hill. Uh-huh.
Right.
I love it.
All right. And graduate school?
I also went to a school in Baltimore, University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Great, great.
I just couldn't get away from Baltimore.
Well, Baltimore is a great city.
Yes, it is.
And it's a city on the rebound, and we salute all our brothers and sisters there in Baltimore and Baltimore County. The reason why I ask you that is because, you know, you're still a very young sister. You're an entrepreneur yourself. You created this company to help students. Tell us and speak to millennials and to Generation Z about if you do get your financial literacy right, if you do get the control of how you're financing your education, it just opens doors for you without burdens to live your life toward building wealth rather than staying in poverty.
Exactly. So that actually goes after two philosophies we talk about in our program. The first of which is the debt, save, invest approach. So if you're not using this $35,000 to pay down student loan debt, what can you do with it? Well, first, you can tackle your own debt. If you ever had to borrow any student loans or credit card debt or anything like that, you can then use any refund money that you do receive to first pay towards your debt. Then you can save and you can invest. I do tell students that there are tax implications for any scholarship or free money that is not used towards your education. So there could be tax implications. So always talk to your tax individual about that. The second thing that I like to tell students is this has a compound effect. So what happens when you win scholarships? Well, you minimize student loan debt, which then improves your debt to income ratio and then allows you to have better interest rates so you can then get a home or a car. It also improves your resume overall. You're more likely to get internships because they see these awards already on your resume. From there, you can continue to get a competitive salary. And then last but not least, when you do the debt, save, invest approach, you are getting ahead of the pack. Because remember, the average person is leaving school with $35,000 in student loan debt. And if you are not, then you are changing your wealth trajectory over time.
Wow, that is some fantastic information, Kiara. So can you talk a little bit about the approaches to applying for a student loan? What's the best approach?
Not to apply at all. No, I'm kidding. So the first way, a lot of students are not, and parents are not completing the FAFSA. So there's statistics that are showing that the people who are completing the FAFSA have been less and less over the years. And a lot of people are not completing it because they feel like, oh, well, my household makes too much income. Don't do that. Go ahead and complete the FAFSA as soon as it comes out in October, because then it makes you eligible for those federal loans. And when you hear President Biden talking about federal student loan forgiveness, he's talking about those federal loans, not the private ones coming from banks, the ones that come from the federal government. In order to get that, you need to complete the FAFSA. So that's the first step. If you have to have student loan debt, you want to go ahead and get a federal loan. Second thing is there are something out there called interest-free loans. They're few, far, and in between. But for example, Central Scholarship, the organization that I won this check from, they offer an interest-free grant, and that is for Maryland students, Maryland residents. But just check for things like that throughout the community. Last but not least, if you do have student loan debt, remember, it is not the end of the world. You can apply for scholarships, and there are databases and resources out there that you can use in order to ease your search.
Wow. And, you know, David Youngblood, one of our viewers this morning, he's writing that student loan forgiveness is the answer. And you mentioned President Biden has mentioned that, and there have been some movement towards some more aggressive elimination of student loan debt. Can you talk a little bit about that and the implications of eliminating student loan debt?
So I think that it would be great to assist some of the adults who have student loan debt who do not know exactly what to do with it besides pay it. There are some options out there to minimize student loan debt, but it's a burden for so many. So I do think President Biden assisting would really help with the debt that is already settled. My true concern is, what about the students who go into college? What's going to happen? Because college costs are not decreasing. That's still remaining the same. And it's an exponential amount of money, which is causing this debt in the first place. So I think we need to figure it out on the end and at the beginning to minimize this debt as a whole within this country.
Yeah, and the American Rescue Plan has this time included the stimulus payments inside the American Rescue Plan included checks for students this time, younger ones, those of college age. Should that be used toward paying down student debt, or how should that individual, how would you recommend an individual use that $1,400 stimulus?
I have to be honest, although I am a free money advocate and people paying down debt, I know that there are a lot of people who are going through very tough times right now. And so first you have to take care of self before you can take care of anything else. So I think if they need the money to do things, to pay for food, to pay for rent, go ahead and do that. However, if you feel like you have enough money coming in and it feels as if it's excess money, yes, go ahead and start to tackle some of the student loan debt that you have, especially because you're not paying any interest on it at the moment, which means you can tackle more of the principal. And then from there, just continue to develop an approach. Some people are kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with student loan debt forgiveness before they put as much money into their student loans. So I would say keep an eye on it, but just know before the interest payments continue again to think about paying your principal if we do not get this student loan forgiveness that is being considered right now.
Yeah, again, great information. You mentioned a little earlier, Kiara, about tax implications. This is something that many students don't think about. Could you talk a little bit more about that, and what is it like? What kind of implications are you talking about when you talk about tax implications?
Okay, so when I won this $30,000 check behind me, I didn't think I was going to have to pay taxes on it. But because it was considered forgiveness and because I was the one receiving the taxes on it and not the donor, I did have to pay taxes. So there's some ways you can minimize that. I purchased a home, I started a business, and I was able to minimize the amount that I owed. However, initially I was going to owe about $17,000, $15,000, a high amount, which almost made it feel like I'm winning this money, but what am I winning, right? I'm losing a big portion. There are ways to kind of minimize that debt and ease the circumstances when it comes to the tax implications.
Okay, wow. Dr. Chavez, again, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Well, thank you. Kiara, what's your perspective on, again, millennials and Generation Z coming out of this pandemic? Can you talk about how the pandemic has put young brothers and sisters in somewhat of a tight spot?
Yes. So some of the students that I coach, they had a plan prior to this pandemic. And now with the pandemic, it seems like their families have gone through even more of a financial burden. So it definitely is kind of pushed back some of those 12th graders, 11th graders who already had a plan set in place. And I think now people are starting to adjust to it and they're able to realize, okay, well, I'm going to continue to look for scholarships. I'm going to move forward with college. And I think that's what we're seeing throughout the country. I've been seeing that like graduate school rates, admission rates are starting to increase and things like that. And because students are applying more, they're like, if I'm at home, I might as well go to school. And so we're starting to see more and more students applying for school and trying to get in versus being uncertain of their next steps.
Wow. And Kiara, James Wright, who's watching, he writes for the Washington Informer, and he says that DC has a serious student loan debt problem. Now, you're based in Bowie, you're right outside of the district. What are you seeing from your from those that you coach, those that Free Moneymeister help that are in Washington, D.C.? What are you hearing from them?
Well, I think one of the things about this area is the fact that, no offense to Washington, D.C. or Virginia, that Maryland has so many good programs for student loan debt that I think that the other surrounding states, cities could really benefit from it. So, for example, in Maryland, there's a student loan debt relief tax credit. And so if you've ever had over $20,000 in student loan debt and you currently have more than $5,000 in student loan debt, you can apply for a tax credit. There's also a home purchasing program where you can minimize student loan debt as well. DC at one point in time had a similar program. I do believe that program has expired. However, I would just say to continue to seek resources within DC. If you would like more resources, then continue to talk to some of your local advocates and people who could potentially provide this money so that maybe more programs could be put into place as well. But there are different softwares that you can use to help. There's student loan forgiveness gaming platforms that can benefit you as well. So just continue to search and don't necessarily rely on what is within DC, but start to look at a national perspective as well for different programs that can assist you.
Well, I see this underscores the importance of financial literacy, right? Kiara, you're really, as they say, dropping a lot of knowledge on us when it comes to the financial side. But tell us a little bit more about Free Moneymeister. How exactly are you helping students?
We get hands-on with the students. What I'm seeing is a lot of students and parents are kind of afraid of the process because they've never done it before and it seems scary to them. And so what we do is we're almost like fitness coaches. We tell them exactly how we're going to go about the process. We pull the scholarships for them. We work with students. If they have essays that they have to write, we walk through the essays. What's your story that you're trying to tell? If they have questions for the committees, we reach out to the committees. We make sure that there's a timeline in place and that each month they're applying to X number of scholarships to increase their chances of winning more and more money. We don't focus on when you're going to hear back because a lot of students get frustrated when they don't immediately win a scholarship. And I tell students it could take 3 to 4 months to even know whether you want a scholarship or not. We don't focus on that. We focus on making sure we put in the hard work and eventually your hard work will pay off.
Wow. And how did you come up with the idea of Free Moneymeister? How did that come about for you?
Long nights applying for scholarships and realizing, well, nobody told me about this, right? And then when I started to win scholarships, I told myself, there are a lot of students who don't know about this, who could know about it. My peers within college could have really benefited from it. And I said, you know what? I want to help other students, all students in general, but especially students who look like me, to minimize student loan debt, because I felt helpless in the beginning. I felt like I was almost being choked with debt. And I don't want that feeling for any student. And in addition, I want students to be able to feel like they can leave college and live their lives instead of worrying about debt that they have to pay down.
Wow, that is awesome. And talk too about the importance of finding the right student loan, because as you mentioned, federal loans are probably more ideal. And then you have the private loans with the high interest rate. Talk about that a little bit, if you will.
Okay, so I'll first start off by telling students the difference between direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized loans. So I say to them, if I give you $100 today, direct subsidized loans mean if you pay me back before you leave college, then you don't owe me anything besides $100 because you're not paying interest on a direct subsidized loan until you leave college. Direct unsubsidized loans, if I give you $100 today, next week you could owe me $150. 4 years from now, you could owe me $600. Why? Because it is accruing debt as soon as I give you the loan. And so that's the main difference. Direct subsidized loans, they are financial need-based loans. And so that is how a student would get that based on their EFC score if they have the need. Direct unsubsidized are not need-based loans and can be provided for graduate students as well. Actually, when I went to grad school, I initially had a direct unsubsidized loan myself, and they have a higher interest rate.
Wow, what a way to observe Financial Literacy Month and to talk to Kiara Jones. I'm looking at a note from our producer. She says a lot of my friends are struggling with making the decision between going to grad school and getting a home. You mentioned that you purchased a home. Can you talk about that? Talk about that aspect of it, please.
Yes, I did go to grad school prior to purchasing the home, just because if you're going to grad school, you don't know where you're going to be. And so sometimes you have to relocate. And so I personally made that grad school decision first. And with grad school is different than undergraduate. You want to look for scholarships as soon as possible and as early as possible. Remember, it's 2 years versus 4 years. So you need to be planning ahead of time. You need to know the programs that you will apply for, scholarship programs, that is, and then apply as soon as possible to minimize debt. Also, you can try to find fellowships that then allow you to apply for graduate school. Remember, they're free money as well. Apply for graduate school, and maybe there's some stipulations with it. For example, there's an SFS program for cyber students that if you go within their program, they pay you. However, you have to work for the federal government after that. When it comes to purchasing a home, it's always great to purchase a home. But as I mentioned before, see if there are programs within your state, within your county or city related to student loan forgiveness. Sometimes if you purchase a home in a certain area, then you can not only receive maybe a portion of student loan forgiveness, maybe there's a tax credit. Just see what is available to you, because you could kill two birds with one stone.
Wow. And it's freemoneymeister.com.
Yes, freemoneymeister.com.
Yeah. Dr. Chavis, I'm going to throw it to you. This is fantastic, Kiara Jones. I'm going to throw it to you for your closing thoughts.
Well, it's great information, not only for young people and students in the Maryland area where Kiara, this is a national broadcast. So Kiara, we know you're going to be getting inquiries from students, from parents who are trying to help their young people get adequate financing, get the scholarships, get the fellowships, and get the internships. There's so many programs out there. You're right. It's having the right information. And we salute you for having the courage and really being very responsible to help others. You've learned a lot in your own journey. Now you're sharing what you've learned as an expert in the college area, in the financing area, in the student loan and scholarship area. So great work. And we're so pleased to have you on the Black Press of America.
Thank you so much for having me. And the feeling that I get when the students win is so rewarding, because I know that we are changing their lives. And so Free Moneymeister for me is just more than just the company. Really, it is a purpose. Now that sounds cliche, but the reason that I'm doing this is to see a change within our community.
Very good.
I tell you what, you are making a change. You're making a difference. It is fantastic to have this information and coming from freemoneymeister.com. So everybody remember that, freemoneymeister.com. Thanks so much, Kiara. This has been wonderful. Financial Literacy Month. We think about it as we talk to Kiara. National Financial Literacy Month is recognized each year in April to raise public awareness of the importance of financial literacy and maintaining smart money management habits. Financial Literacy Month evolved from Youth Financial Literacy Day, introduced by the National Endowment for Financial Education. The United States Senate passed a resolution in 2003 officially designating April as Financial Literacy Month. President Obama made a proclamation in March of 2017 highlighting the importance of being financially capable and declaring the month of April as National Financial Capability Month. That is the short and the long of it for National Financial Literacy Month. Let it be known, financial literacy makes it okay for you to make small and big mistakes. On the other hand, being financially illiterate only makes those mistakes dire and regrettable. We'll see you tomorrow.